The silver screen demands absolute perfection, but behind the closed doors of billion-dollar estates, the price of immortality is paid in suffocating double lives and ruthless cover-ups. You are now unlocking the classified dossiers of Hollywood stars and scars. A definitive record of the most devastating Hollywood scandals the industry's PR machinery spent millions to erase. Tonight, we dismantle the crushing psychological cost of fame, leading to the chilling final hours of a universally beloved generational icon. When his life was slipping away in the dark, why was the very first panic call dispatched not to 911, but to a private security team? Behind the glitter, the scars remain. Welcome to Hollywood Stars and Scars. Number 20, John F. Kennedy. The ultimate emblem of American royalty stood at the absolute pinnacle of global power. Radiating charisma, John F. Kennedy projected the flawless image of a devoted family man commanding the world stage with unparalleled elegance. Cameras captured only the gleaming smile and the meticulously crafted Camelot myth. Behind the imposing doors of the Oval Office, an entirely different narrative was carefully shielded from the public eye. The illusion cracked silently when a destructive abuse of power entangled a 19-year-old intern named Mimi Alford in a deeply concealed affair. White House corridors became the backdrop for a hidden life buried beneath layers of political spin. This fiercely guarded secret was locked away, remaining completely hidden from the world until long after his demise. Reports eventually confirmed the devastating contrast between the revered leader and his private indiscretions. True power often relies on the darkest shadows to maintain its blinding light. Number 19, Raymond Burr. Dominating the golden era of television. Raymond Burr became the definitive face of American justice as the formidable Perry Mason. Studios marketed him as the ultimate masculine authority, a towering figure commanding absolute respect and record-breaking ratings. He was a cornerstone of broadcast television, wrapped in an immaculate, unassailable public persona. Behind the imposing courtroom sets and flashing press cameras, a completely different reality was heavily guarded. For 33 years, Burr shared a deeply concealed life with actor Robert Benavides, navigating a fiercely prejudiced Hollywood that would have annihilated his empire overnight. Desperate industry fixers engineered a suffocating media blackout, meticulously orchestrating fake, highly publicized dates with leading ladies to protect a lucrative illusion. The man who made his fortune uncovering the truth on screen spent his private existence forced into the shadows. He maintained this heavily curated deception until the day he died. The industry demands a suffocating price for immortality, forcing its most revered icons to completely erase their authentic identities. Number 18, Thomas Kinkade. Known globally as the Painter of Light, Thomas Kinkade constructed a massive empire heavily reliant on idyllic warmth and flawless family harmony. Millions of living rooms prominently displayed his glowing canvases, cementing a lucrative brand synonymous with wholesome American morality and unprecedented commercial dominance. Beneath the manufactured glow, a starkly contrasting truth was heavily guarded from public view. Following a quiet separation from his wife, Kinkade plunged into a hidden life, fostering an intense secret relationship with Amy Pinto Walsh. The master of nostalgic illusion orchestrated a complex double existence intentionally isolated from the pristine reputation sold to his fiercely devoted collectors. After his sudden demise, the meticulously curated facade shattered entirely. Probate filings unearthed 2 hastily scribbled handwritten notes explicitly redirecting a sprawling luxury mansion and $10 million to Pinto Walsh to establish an art museum. The most luminous public images are often meticulously engineered to blind us to the darkest private truths. Number 17. Rock Hudson. Reigning over Hollywood's golden age, Rock Hudson embodied the ultimate romantic ideal. Studios aggressively packaged him as the quintessential leading man, flashing his rugged charm across silver screens to cement a flawlessly masculine brand. He was an undisputed box office king, worshipped by millions who bought into a pristine, manufactured fantasy. Beneath the tailored tuxedos, a completely different reality was fiercely guarded. Facing an industry that would instantly obliterate his career, executives orchestrated a devastating PR strategy, trapping him in a highly publicized, arranged marriage. His authentic identity was ruthlessly buried beneath studio contracts, creating a suffocating dual existence designed to protect the bottom line. The impenetrable fortress of his public persona finally collapsed in 1985. A shocking global announcement confirmed a devastating illness, simultaneously exposing the deeply concealed truth he had protected for decades. He passed away shortly after his meticulously crafted image forever altered. The most revered studio legends are often forced to become the ultimate casualties of their own manufactured illusions. Number 16. Leonard Cohen. Revered as a legendary poet of melancholy, Leonard Cohen commanded audiences with an aura of profound, unmatched mystery. Fans worshipped a master lyricist whose private world seemed completely untouchable behind dim stage lights and impeccable tailored suits. He was the ultimate gentleman, guarding his solitary brilliance from the ravenous press. Piercing this curated veil, a brief but intense collision at the Chelsea Hotel in 1968 entangled him with rock icon Janis Joplin. A critical lapse in judgment later shattered his self-imposed code of silence when he immortalized their intimacy in the track Chelsea Hotel No. 2. Naming his famous lover fractured his fiercely protected image. The weight of this exposure haunted him, triggering a public retraction. He confessed agonizing regret over betraying her identity, declaring he had never before surrendered a private romance to the spotlight. Even the most poetic illusions cannot hide the guilt of a broken confidence. Number 15. Sally Ride. Ascending into history. Sally Ride shattered the celestial ceiling as the first American female astronaut. NASA heavily marketed her as a fearless pioneer, projecting an immaculate symbol of national triumph across global broadcasts. She remained an untouchable icon, smiling through flashing press cameras while dutifully playing the pristine hero. Behind sanitized press briefings, a vastly different personal universe was fiercely protected. Surviving an era where any deviation from the conventional ideal meant instant career annihilation, she maintained a heavily guarded 27-year hidden life with partner Tam O'Shaughnessy. Upholding a flawless narrative necessitated a grueling double existence, forcing her deepest connection off the radar. This fortress of silence only crumbled when her life concluded in 2012. Following a fatal battle with pancreatic cancer, a quietly published obituary officially confirmed the decades-long secret romance to a stunned public. Even the most groundbreaking pioneers are sometimes forced to navigate their greatest journeys entirely in the dark. Number 14. Dirk Bogarde. Commanding the silver screen as a revered British idol, Dirk Bogarde cultivated an image of absolute aristocratic perfection. Studios fiercely capitalized on his magnetic allure, projecting a traditional leading man aesthetic that captivated legions of adoring fans. He moved elegantly through blinding paparazzi flashes, selling a flawless, bankable illusion. Far removed from glamorous premieres, an entirely separate existence was rigidly concealed from a society that criminalized his truth. Bogarde shared a deeply hidden 4-decade bond with his manager Anthony Forwood. Relentless industry pressure demanded absolute denial, forcing him to repeatedly swear their profound connection was merely a strictly platonic friendship to shield his career from ruin. This desperate charade remained unbroken until his final breath. He carried his authentic identity directly to the grave, permanently burying a lifetime of devotion beneath manufactured propaganda. The ultimate tragedy of cinematic immortality is that it frequently demands the total erasure of a star's true soul. Number 13. Marilyn Monroe. Captivating the globe as the ultimate symbol of cinematic allure, Marilyn Monroe reigned supreme. Cameras relentlessly chased her platinum perfection, capturing a glamorous superstar who defined an era of entertainment. She was the undisputed goddess of the silver screen, radiating an untouchable vulnerability that generated millions. Far from adoring crowds, her private orbit dangerously intersected with political power. Industry insiders whispered about deeply concealed, politically explosive entanglements involving John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy. The studio illusion fractured as rumors of classified relationships threatened to trigger a catastrophic crisis, pulling her into a suffocating web of secrets. Before the truth of these rumored dynamics could be unsealed, her life ended in a devastatingly tragic demise. She carried the reality of these clandestine romances directly to the grave. The brightest stars are often consumed by the very shadows they are forced to keep. Number 12. Richard Pryor. Revolutionizing the stand-up stage. Richard Pryor was celebrated as an unfiltered comedic genius. His electric performances commanded sold-out arenas, projecting a fiercely rebellious public persona that defined an entire era. He was the untouchable voice of a generation, basking in flashing cameras while guarding a vastly different reality. Operating in the shadows of this immense fame, his most guarded truth involved a clandestine connection with cinematic titan Marlon Brando. Industry fixers maintained a suffocating silence over this deeply hidden romance, shielding an intense entanglement that would have upended his meticulously crafted image. The explosive dynamic was strictly protected from the blinding spotlight. Years after his passing, the impenetrable vault surrounding his private life finally opened. Powerhouse producer Quincy Jones and Pryor's widow Jennifer Lee officially confirmed the heavily concealed relationship to a stunned world. The most unapologetic voices in entertainment often spend their lives desperately silencing their own profound truths. Number 11. Alan Bates. Emerging as a powerhouse of British cinema, Alan Bates commanded the silver screen with brooding intellectual masculinity. Studios fiercely protected his elite leading man status, cultivating an unshakable image that guaranteed critical acclaim. He navigated blinding press flashes as a distinguished, untouchable icon. Far beyond the heavily curated press junkets, a deeply guarded reality remained entirely obscured from the public eye. Facing an unforgiving industry, he buried his bisexuality, sustaining clandestine relationships with Olympic athlete John Curry and actor Ian Charleson. Maintaining this suffocating charade required relentless vigilance, ensuring his authentic identity never fractured a lucrative studio narrative. Solace eventually arrived, not through public liberation, but in a quiet retreat during his final years, alongside former lover Joanna Pettit. He shielded this complex romantic history until his dying breath, securing his clandestine secrets forever. The grandest theatrical performances are frequently the ones revered icons are forced to endure entirely off-screen. The camera lens operates as both a creator and a relentless prison warden. When an industry monetizes a specific persona, authentic human connection transforms into a catastrophic financial liability. Sustaining a perpetual high-stakes deception demands immense psychological endurance. This relentless cognitive compartmentalization does more than merely exhaust the mind. It systematically fractures an individual's core identity. We ravenously consume flawless icons, willfully blind to the severe mental toll exacted by our own applause and the devastating isolation it enforces. Some carefully buried truths, however, refuse to remain off-record. The next archived file exposes exactly what happens when the engineered facade finally breaks. Number 10. Paul Walker. Accelerating to the absolute zenith of box office dominance, Paul Walker was worshipped as the ultimate action hero. The industry flawlessly packaged him as an effortlessly cool, universally beloved protagonist, capturing hardships through endless franchise sequels and blinding red carpet smiles. He stood as a pillar of wholesome cinematic brotherhood, projecting an undeniably pristine public image. Away from the roaring engines, a deeply unsettling personal timeline was carefully shielded from his massive fan base. Buried tabloid headlines pointed toward highly controversial age-gap relationships involving Jasmine Pilchard Gosnell and Aubriana Atwell. Maintaining his beloved persona required a suffocating media cover-up, masking dynamics that sparked troubling speculation about power imbalances far removed from his on-screen heroism. Following his sudden demise, the retroactive lens of public scrutiny began unearthing these intensely debated private choices. Reports repeatedly highlighted a hidden life exposed that starkly contradicted the flawless franchise mythology sold to millions worldwide. The ultimate cinematic hero often leaves behind a vastly more complicated, profoundly shadowed legacy. Number 9. Heath Ledger. Mesmerizing audiences with unparalleled raw intensity, Heath Ledger redefined the cinematic landscape. Studios revered his transformative talent, packaging him as an elusive, brooding leading man who effortlessly commanded global adoration. He navigated flashing red carpets with enigmatic charm, cementing a legacy of flawless artistic dedication. Operating far beyond relentless paparazzi lenses, a highly volatile and intensely private romance was meticulously concealed. Industry whispers pointed to a turbulent connection with former child star Mary-Kate Olsen, hidden beneath layers of carefully maintained studio silence. Protecting this destructive cycle of fame required a suffocating veil of privacy, isolating his inner world from overwhelming industry pressures. This fragile barrier between his brilliant persona and hidden reality shattered following his sudden, devastating passing. Reports later spotlighted this unsealed relationship, exposing a turbulent final chapter that starkly contrasted with his revered on-screen invincibility. The most mesmerizing icons are frequently consumed by the shadows they desperately try to escape. Number 8. Robin Gibb. Defining a spectacular era of musical dominance, Robin Gibb achieved monumental success alongside the Bee Gees. The industry aggressively packaged him as a chart-topping sovereign, pairing his vocal brilliance with a meticulously crafted image of domestic stability. He projected the ultimate portrait of a devoted partner anchored by his longtime marriage to Dwina. Shielded from relentless tabloid scrutiny, a complex personal timeline was ruthlessly concealed. Reports eventually pointed to an intense, hidden relationship with his housekeeper, Claire Yang. Safeguarding his wholesome legacy necessitated a staggering cover-up, obscuring the birth of their secret daughter, Snow, to avoid a devastating PR crisis. An impenetrable vault surrounded this double life until the legendary artist passed away. Estate filings ultimately unraveled the deflection, exposing a stark contrast between his broadcasted home life and a hidden life exposed. The most infectious pop culture harmonies are frequently engineered to drown out the silence of a compromised truth. Number 7. Farah Faucet. Captivating the 1970s as a golden-haired television goddess, Farah Fawcett defined American beauty. Tabloids relentlessly documented her highly publicized 30-year romance with Hollywood heavyweight Ryan O'Neal, cementing an undeniably bankable power couple. She radiated flawlessly under blinding flashbulbs, projecting an untouchable image of glamorous love. Far removed from the manufactured red carpet mythology, a fiercely protected alternate reality remained completely unseen. While cameras broadcasted a historic Hollywood union, her profound devotion was secretly anchored to her college sweetheart, Greg L. Maintaining this lucrative public illusion required a staggering personal sacrifice, forcefully pushing her most authentic connection into the shadows to appease unyielding industry expectations. Decades of heavily curated media propaganda eventually unraveled to reveal a deeply fragmented legacy. Reports later spotlighted a hidden life exposed, stripping away the cinematic fantasy to uncover the agonizing reality of an engineered persona. The most immortalized Hollywood romances are frequently constructed merely to bury the profound isolation of a captive heart. Number 6. Gregory Peek. Epitomizing Hollywood nobility, Gregory Peek commanded the silver screen with unwavering moral authority. Studios marketed him as the ultimate pillar of integrity, anchoring his bankable brand to a highly publicized, pristine marriage with his wife, Greta. He navigated blinding premiere lights while projecting an unassailable image of stoic righteousness. Operating far from wholesome flashbulbs, a contrasting emotional reality was fiercely concealed. The meticulously crafted studio illusion threatened to fracture when an intense romance ignited with his iconic co-star, Ingrid Bergman. Protecting his domestic narrative required a suffocating veil of secrecy, forcing an explosive off-screen passion into the shadows to avert a devastating PR crisis. Long after the cameras stopped rolling, the impenetrable fortress surrounding this hidden chapter collapsed. Insiders later unsealed the truth of this entanglement, exposing a staggering divide between his legendary cinematic virtue and a deeply clandestine life. The most revered paragons of honor frequently sacrifice their authentic desires to sustain a manufactured illusion. Number 5. Paul Newman. Universally adored as the blue-eyed titan of American cinema, Paul Newman built an empire on rugged charm. His highly publicized marriage to Joanne Woodward was marketed by studios as Hollywood's gold standard of devotion. He navigated flashing premiere lights, projecting an aspirational image that millions blindly trusted. Beneath the curated mythology of the perfect husband, an agonizingly complex reality was kept out of the headlines. Industry insiders frantically guarded a concealed year-spanning romantic entanglement with journalist Nancy Bacon, terrified of a devastating PR crisis. Protecting this bankable brand required burying an off-screen passion behind an impenetrable wall of studio silence. Decades of enforced media cover-ups eventually unraveled when reports unsealed the truth of a hidden life exposed. This retrospective exposure permanently fractured the flawless domestic illusion, revealing the staggering divide between a manufactured icon and a compromised man. The most enduring Hollywood fairy tales are frequently sustained by burying the fractures of the human heart. Number 4. Joan Rivers. Shattering the male-dominated comedy circuits, Joan Rivers ascended as a razor-sharp television pioneer. She thrived under flashing studio lights beside the undisputed king of broadcasting, Johnny Carson. Networks marketed them as the perfect platonic powerhouse, an unstoppable mentoring dynamic adored by millions. Away from the roaring applause, a deeply complex and volatile entanglement was fiercely concealed. Industry insiders eventually pointed to a highly clandestine romantic collision between the legendary comic and the late-night sovereign. Protecting their lucrative empires required an absolute media blackout, burying this secret one-night stand beneath carefully crafted professional banter. This unbreakable on-screen chemistry later imploded in a devastatingly public industry feud. Accounts eventually confirmed the heavily guarded intimacy that sparked behind closed doors, exposing a competitive bond permanently fractured by perceived betrayal. The brightest television spotlights are flawlessly engineered to blind us from the most unforgiving personal severances. Number 3. Gene Rodenberry. Architecting a utopian vision of the future. Gene Roddenberry pioneered a monumental science fiction empire with Star Trek. Networks heralded him as a visionary genius, anchoring his franchise to an impeccably marketed image of moral superiority and domestic stability. He commanded adoring crowds, selling a pristine mythos that captured millions. Far beyond the blinding flashbulbs, a highly volatile romantic reality was fiercely protected. While promoting an idealized society, he quietly sustained a heavily guarded clandestine love triangle with Nell Nichols and Miguel Barrett. Maintaining this explosive entanglement required an absolute media blackout, masking a chaotic double life to shield his married persona from a devastating PR crisis. Decades after his cinematic voyages concluded, the impenetrable vault securing these complexities finally shattered. Reports eventually confirmed the staggering divide between his broadcasted morality and a hidden life exposed to a stunned fanbase. The most visionary creators of our grandest cinematic futures frequently spend their lives outrunning a deeply compromised present. Number 2. Kim Novak. Hypnotizing the silver screen as a legendary blonde muse, Kim Novak defined an era of untouchable cinematic glamour. Studios rigorously packaged her as the quintessential leading lady, projecting an immaculate aura of Hollywood royalty. She commanded the box office, radiating a pristine image meticulously engineered for mass consumption. Concealed beneath this manufactured perfection, a groundbreaking romance was fiercely guarded from an unforgiving industry. Defying rigid societal boundaries, she engaged in a deeply hidden, forbidden entanglement with entertainer Sammy Davis Jr. Protecting her lucrative brand required a suffocating media cover-up, as terrifying industry threats aimed to sever the controversial interracial dynamic to avert a devastating PR crisis. Years after her reigning era, the vault securing this suppressed history finally shattered. Reports illuminated the cruel reality of an intense love forcibly destroyed by executives protecting a bankable illusion. The most alluring on-screen fantasies are frequently built upon the ashes of a ruthlessly denied human connection. Number 1. Anthony Perkins. Defining the psychological thriller genre. Anthony Perkins mesmerized audiences with his performance in Psycho. Industry titans rapidly molded him into a highly profitable heartthrob, flooding magazines with his impeccably tailored, pristine image. He dominated flashing premiere circuits effortlessly, portraying the universally adored, bankable leading man studios demanded. Navigating the draconian landscape of 1950s Hollywood, a deeply forbidden reality was desperately kept off the record. The unforgiving studio machine forced his clandestine romance with fellow star Tab Hunter into absolute secrecy. To avoid a devastating PR crisis and career annihilation, an oppressive media cover-up was orchestrated to bury their connection beneath manufactured press. This relentless pressure ultimately pushed him into a highly publicized marriage with actress Barry Berenson, securing his mainstream viability. Reports later highlighted the agonizing toll of a hidden life, exposing an industry that demanded complete erasure of his authentic self. The most chilling cinematic masterpieces are often built upon the trauma of a ruthlessly extinguished identity. The true collateral damage of these Hollywood scandals is the silent fracturing of the human mind. Behind every manufactured idol lies a suffocating, deeply personal isolation. As we close this dossier for Hollywood stars and scars, a brutal reality emerges. No applause cures psychological ruin. Real survival isn't enduring a toxic spotlight. It's finding the sheer courage to walk away, guard your mental peace, and reclaim your humanity before the curtain drops forever. When the final red carpet flashbulb cools, all that remains in the crushing silence is the agonizing truth the PR machinery paid to bury. The archive of Hollywood scandals is vast, and the studio executives want these vaults permanently sealed. Subscribe to Hollywood Stars and Scars right now to unlock the next classified reel of industry cover-ups, and join us as we systematically dismantle the manufactured illusions they sold you. Because the most flawless legends are always stitched together with the deepest, unhealed wounds.